Okay, we are live here, and the decision that Friday was made needs a commentary, needs reflection. I'm going to talk about it now. And there. So, last Friday, millions of people around the world woke up and found they could no longer access some of the most powerful AI tools on the planet. No warning, no explanation, no appeal. A single letter from a US government official had made this decision for all of them overnight. This is not falling out with, this is not a story about one company falling out with one administration. It is a story about who controls the infrastructure of human thought in the 21st century and what happens when that infrastructure becomes a weapon. Stay with me. So, we could call it the AI enclosure, how Washington weaponized the infrastructure of human thought. Let me tell you exactly what happened, because the headlines have not been entirely clear about it. Anthropic is an American artificial intelligence company. It is not a small startup. It is one of the most significant AI laboratories in the world, responsible for some of the most capable AI models currently available, models used by researchers, businesses, educators, journalists, and individuals across dozens of countries. Last Friday, the United States Commerce Secretary sent a letter to Anthropic's CEO. The letters state that two of the company's most advanced models, known as Mythos 5 and Fable 5, were now subject to export controls. This means they could no longer be accessed by foreign governments, foreign companies, foreign individuals, not outside the United States, not even inside the United States if the user was not an American citizen. To comply with this order, Anthropic had no choice. It disabled access to both models for every customer on Earth, American and non American alike, while it works to establish a licensing system. Overnight, without warning to users, without appeal. The official reason given was a security concern, a reported method of bypassing the model's safety filters. Anthropic itself disrupted this characterization. The company said it has received only verbal notification of what it described as limited, non universal vulnerability, not, in its own assessment, sufficient grounds for a global shutdown. So that is what happened. Now let us talk about what it means. To understand Friday's decision, you need to go back several months. Either earlier this year, the Trump administration approached Anthropic with a demand grant the United States military unrestricted access to its AI model. This would have meant removing the safety constraints that Anthropic had built into its system, constraints designed to prevent the models from being used to develop autonomous weapons, conduct mass surveillance, or assist in operations that would violate basic ethical and legal standards. Anthropic refused. This is what posing this is worth posing on it. In a political climate where most technology companies have learned that compliance is the path of least resistance, Anthropic said no. Its CEO Dario Amodei held the position that there were uses of AI the company was not willing to enable, regardless of who was asking. The, administration, the administration's response was swift and severe. President Trump directed all federal agencies to immediately stop using Anthropic's technology. The Pentagon went further. It labeled Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security, a designation that until that moment had been reserved exclusively for foreign adversaries, Chinese companies, state linked entities, hostile actors. An American AI safety company was placed in the same legal and regulatory category as an arm of a hostile foreign state. A federal court subsequently blocked part of that designation, ruling it potentially violated the First Amendment. But the signal had already been sent, and last Friday's Export Control Directive is its logical continuation. The pattern is clear. Refuse to cooperate with unrestricted military use, and the state will use every instrument at its disposal to make your existence commercially untenable. Okay. Uh, if um, let's see. So now we go into depth. Okay. And we're going to start with a first movement. The first question we need to ask is a classical one, updated for our moment. Who owns the means of production? Now, in the industrial era, the question pointed to factories, machineries, raw materials. Today, in the era of digital capitalism, the means of production are increasingly cognitive. They are the large scale computational systems, the training data, the algorithms, and the models that process information and generate knowledge at scale. Anthropic, like its competitors OpenAI and Google DeepMind, is a private company. But what Friday's events revealed is that private ownership of AI infrastructure is conditioned ultimately on the consent of the American state. The moment a company exercises its nominal autonomy in a way that conflicts with state priorities, the state moves to reassert control. Not through nationalization, but through something more flexible and more powerful, the threat of market annihilation. This is a new form of what the Marxist theory calls primitive accumulation, not the seizure of land from peasants, but the enclosure of cognitive commons. The fence being built is not around a field, it is around the tools through which an increasingly proportion of human intellectual labor is conducted. The second movement we can present here concerns access and what it means when access becomes a privilege rather than a condition. For the past several years, frontier AI models have been available imperfectly, unevenly, but available to users across the world. A researcher in Lagos, a journalist in Warsaw, a small business owner in Naples, a student in Bangalore, all of them could, in principle, use the same tools as a researcher at MIT or a consultant in New York. That relative openness was never guaranteed. It was commercial. It was a commercial decision, not a rights-based one. And Friday demonstrated with absolute clarity that it can be revoked. What replaces open access is a licensing regime. To use these models, foreign entity will now need to apply for individually validated licenses, granted or denied by the United States government. This transforms what was a market relationship into a political one. Access to cognitive infrastructure of the 21st century will be mediated by Washington's assessment of your government, your country, your politics, your alignment. This is not unprecedented in the history of technology. The United States has long controlled the export of semiconductors, encryption technology, and military hardware. But AI models are different in kind, not just degree. They are not components in a weapon system. They are general purpose cognitive tools, the contemporary equivalent of printing, press, or the library. Placing them under export control regimes designed for weapons is a category error with enormous political consequences. So now I think I'm going to stop here. I'm going to do a second part with three other movements. And I hope you find this useful. And if you do, just uh, tell some just to another person. Thank you very much if you have been watching. And till next time, I will do next one. Okay? Thank you. Bye.